Hey, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Off the Cuff with Dustin Heisey. Thanks for being here tonight, guys. We have a great show in store for you tonight. Really excited to have our good friend Rob Gibson as a guest today. Rob and I go years back. We've done quite a few things together. We met in the Civil War reenacting community, and he's a tintype photographer. So we go in there and do his beautiful shop, and he had pictures of celebrities strewn all over his walls. I mean, just all inspiring stuff, man. What a great guy. What a great person. Super fun to be around. Also, guys, we're going to talk a little bit about 9/11 today. And today is a really somber day. For me, when I woke up this morning, the first thing I was thinking about is all those people 20 years ago already who didn't get to wake up today because of what happened on that terrible day. All right, we're going to keep all the nonsense out of it today. This is about remembering those who passed, and however that happened. That's just what it is. But today's about remembrance and all the soldiers who have served this country as a result of those terrible attacks on our country that September day. 2001, guys. Can you believe that? It's 20 years, man. How time flies. So what I'd really like you to do in the comment section, please join up with us. Tell us where you were. I'll put you up on the screen here. Tell me where you were, what you were doing that day, and we'll definitely get into talking about it. First of all, I would also like to take an opportunity to thank Ted and the folks over there at WLFE DE Radio Network. Thank you guys for inviting us to be on your network. We sincerely do appreciate it, and I hope we provide you with quality entertainment. Again, we are sincerely blessed and thankful to be here. So, guys, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump right in here. I'm going to bring my guest, Rob Gibson, into the show. Rob, thanks for joining us, my friend. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me here, Dustin. I have to congratulate you on this great format. I mean, I've been watching some of your videos, and they get better and better each one. And congratulations on these the new sponsor that you have here. And,
thank you.
Yeah, exactly. It's very proud of you, man. You've done a lot in a little bit of time. So great to see you on here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, my friend. Hey, you and I are a lot alike when it comes to this kind of stuff, man. We're driven folks. We're very driven individuals, and you and I both have like these ideas that just are constantly bouncing off of each other. And
sometimes that can be a curse, believe me.
Because you have no idea, like, where am I going to go with all this? Like, what am I going to do? But hey, we've been able to do things together. We've created some things together, and it was a lot of fun. So Gretchen was on her way to work when 9/11 happened. So Facebook user, I'm not sure who you are. Your name isn't showing up, but recovering from back surgery. Husband woke me up, and about 10 seconds later, the second plane went in. My Hershey High classmate Mike Horrocks was co-pilot of the second plane. Oh, wow. That's insane. That puts you up close and personal to it for sure. So, Rob, tell us what you were doing. Where were you when the world stopped turning?
You talk about a bittersweet experience, mostly bitter, but it was I had been on the set of Gods and Generals, and we were filming down in Staunton, Virginia. And this was actually the day that I was supposed to be on set as a photographer, playing a photographer in a scene. And it was a scene of the 20th Maine camp, with Jeff Daniels being there, C. Thomas Howell, a number of the other notables, of course, Kevin Conway, who played Buster Kilrain. And I was on the set that day. We were going through, the motions of rehearsal and being filmed and all that sort of stuff. And a good friend of mine, Don Arrows, who is one of the electricians that has done so many different movies and television shows that I've been involved with. He came over. He said, "Hey, Gibson, check this out. Plane just hit the World Trade Center." I thought he was joking. And he had a little pocket, I don't know, Watchmen, whatever they were back then, a little portable TV. And we were watching the footage of it. And then it wasn't that much longer that, the second plane hit. And I remember Jeff Daniels was standing next to me. We were all crowded around that little tiny TV set. A number of my friends said, "That's it, we're at war. We've got to," they were in the reserves and they had to leave immediately. Yari Villanueva was one of them. And it was a strange, somber time. And out here, doing this Civil War film. And suddenly, for the first time, we didn't have to worry about the airplanes coming over. There was nothing. The airspace was dead. We weren't that far from Dulles Airport. And I think we went a little bit longer that day, and then we broke. And I remember taking a vote as to what should we do. Should we carry on? Should we, cut the film for a couple weeks? And, those that stayed, that could stay, decided the best tribute we could do was to continue to make this film. And, of course, keep our eye on, what was transpiring. So it was quite a strange day. And I had taken one photograph that day. Yari, I know, had just posted it on his Facebook thing, but it was Yari and let's see, I think my good friend Jerry Hornbaker were in it, and that was taken 9/11, just before the plane hit. So
that's crazy.
Pretty strange, yeah.
That's crazy. You know what? I was well, before I get to me, let's Mansell, if I say your name wrong, Mansell, I was in Romania and my brother was there, so I was scared. I couldn't get him on the phone. He worked near there. Yeah, that I can only imagine what that would be like for somebody, especially in another country, going through this. You got family that's right there. I mean, that would have been scary. Fortunately, I didn't have any family or friends there. To my knowledge, I didn't know anybody there at the time. I know people now, the people that I've made acquaintances with since then that were there. And I just thank God that they were able to make it out. And unfortunately, there were so many thousands that didn't, but also, the thousands of people, that went up there and volunteered. You guys don't get a lot of recognition for that, but I know people that did. They ran right up there and volunteered, right. And they put blood, sweat, and tears into helping to try to find people. And the first responders that sacrificed so much and lost their lives, here at Off the Cuff in my home, in my life, I am forever and eternally grateful for those sacrifices, and as well as the soldiers and sailors and airmen who have gone over and fought that war as a result of it.
I do have an interesting story. My friend Brian Mallon, who of course played General Hancock in the movie, and over a couple beers one night, which we were going from place to place in these premieres, he relayed a story to me of 9/11, and I never forgot it. He said that his brother was working in the second tower, and they were looking out the window and saw the smoke coming from the first tower. And he said to his boss, he goes, "I'm getting the heck out of here." He goes, "Why? We're okay. We're safe." And he said, "That thing might fall over on us," was the words he said. And according to Brian, his brother went down to the ground floor, was walking out of the building, and suddenly this huge gust of air through the elevators basically blew him off his feet from the back. It was the second plane hitting his tower.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, it was that close. So, and I knew there was a gentleman that worked for the Transit Authority, and he was down there that day. There were so many people that were involved in the film, the reenacting, reenactors and the movie people. I think a lot of it has to do with, when you're in the military or law enforcement, it's just the continual patriotism, I guess, and you're involved in a lot of other things like Gods and Jungles. So, it wasn't that odd for somebody to be involved in what we were working on.
Yeah, I was actually in the movie Gods and Generals. I was fortunate enough to have been picked for the core group of reenactors, so I was actually paid to be there. It was $100 a day, but it was the greatest experience.
Good money then, yeah.
I took it. But it was so cool because I got to meet really, really cool people. I got to meet, Tommy Howe. I got to meet Jeff Daniels. Or I got to meet so many other people, and it was just a cool experience. So that I'll forever be grateful for that. So I want to jump back up here to Robert. So Robert's from down under Australia. He was playing Yahoo Scrabble. Kind of funny thing. I was playing on the computer too. I was playing Slingo. I don't know if anybody remembers that game. It was the cool little game where you kind of had like a roulette thing, and you selected a box, and it's like bingo in a way, but it was a really fun game. And I was actually playing Slingo when I heard it come on the TV. And funny thing, I ran to my mother's because I actually, believe it or not, I lived directly next door to my mother. I bought the house that was connected to her. And I was awestruck. I was like, a jet just literally flew into the side of I couldn't believe this. And I ran over to my mother and I told her what was going on. And she's like, I know, I got it on. And at that moment, there was a reporter standing in the Pentagon. And I said to Mom, Mom, you watch. Something's going to happen at the Pentagon while this guy's on TV. And that's exactly when that plane hit.
Wow.
Yeah. If my mother was on here, she'd vouch for me on this one.
That's
she was, yeah. So I called that one. And I wasn't trying to be like conspiracy minded or anything like that. I just had the feeling like,
right.
You know, some shit's about to happen. And it did. It was crazy.
Right.
All right. So Patricia, thanks for joining us. Lived in the DC area. My daughter was to audition for a college theater program in one of the towers. It was 2 a.m. and we were leaving to get on the train to get to New York. Suddenly, my daughter said she could not go and began to cry. Well, I was not happy and went home. That morning, dropped her off at school and went to work out. Suddenly, all the TVs in the gym showed the planes flying into the towers. Everyone ran out to get their children, but the schools were in lockdown and were a mile from the CIA. Wow, it's pretty incredible. I was out in the field where I had my photo taken by Rob. Oh, so we'll get to that. So Rob is a wet plate photographer, and we're going to get into that a little bit. We're going to show you some of his pictures. But Lee is a friend of ours. He's a good friend of the show. What part of the field were you guys in? Okay, so Rick, I was at home as I worked second shift. My daughter was 10 months old and just learning to walk as I turned the TV on right after it happened. God bless their souls. Amen. Amen. So look, the world changed in an instant. I mean, and I think if you were standing there where anybody can vouch for this. I mean, where you were, you knew in that instant. I was young, pretty young at the time still, not as young as I'd like to be, but I knew in that moment that life was about to change. I felt immense amount of anger. I don't know about how you guys felt, but I was overwhelmed with anger. I wanted somebody to pay for this.
Yes.
And that was my first thought.
Yes.
I had a plate done by Rob. It was me and Ron Palazzi's boy. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So, let's shift gears a little bit. Thank you guys for sharing your stories about 9/11. I do appreciate that, and keep them coming as we're going. We will filter that in the whole way throughout the show. Keep telling me where you're from, where you're watching from, and also and tell us what you were doing when 9/11 happened. So when 9/11 happened, I was a freshman in high school between French and chemistry. Okay. Yes. So let's talk about this wet plate photography, man. This is a cool process. I mean, this is how I got to know you. We came into your shop one day and I was just awe-inspired by the thousands of, pictures of celebrities. And I mean, you've photographed Zach Baggins and the Ghost Hunters crew and, or whichever one they do.
Ghost Adventures, yes.
Ghost Adventures, right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, you've done so much of this stuff. So tell me, how did you get your start? Where did that interest even come from, man?
Well, and I don't know if you want to go through some of the pictures that I had sent you a couple of them, but
Yeah.
Way back when I started Civil War reenacting. I started out doing artillery because I didn't know what else to do. And I had a great-grandfather and great-great-grandfather that were both in the Union Cavalry. So it was my dream to be on horseback. Never rode a horse in my life, but I felt like, I could learn how to do this. And thank goodness for a good friend of mine, Lee Frisbee, who had an extra horse, and he taught me how to ride. And within, I don't know, a month or two, there I was, on the field at Cedar Creek, and damn lucky I didn't kill myself, to be honest with you. But I got better and better on horseback, and they started casting for the movie Gettysburg. And they said, anybody, wants to be involved, send a photograph, and, your particulars. So I had this girl I knew that was a damn good photographer, and she met me over at the barn one day, got the horse all saddled up, got my outfit all on, Union Cavalry. And she did a whole series of great medium format photographs, and I sent those in. And they must have impressed Ron Maxwell in the group, because a couple days later, they called me up and they said, hey, we saw your pictures here. Would you be interested in being in the movie? I said, well, absolutely. And they said, do you think you'd be willing to play a Union officer? I said, sure. They said,
Why
well,
not?
you got all the stuff, don't you? I says, oh yeah, I got everything. And they said, all right, you're on Buford staff. Now, I hung up the phone, had to go find a uniform, a lieutenant's uniform. And they even gave me who I was supposed to be, which was a guy named Peter Gaskell, who was on General John Buford's staff at Gettysburg. He was younger, clean shaven, dark hair. I looked a lot like him. I knew how to ride. And that's how I ended up in the movie Gettysburg. So you'll see me in some places as a regular trooper on the wall firing, and then other places I'll be riding behind the lines next to Sam Elliott. And, while he's giving all those great speeches about thumping his chest and taking, holding the high ground and keep a clear eye, I'm standing right next to him. So that was pretty fun. After that, there's a good picture of Sam and I. That was actually out in the field where the fake seminary was. A lot of people don't realize this, but the seminary building with a cupola and all that, they used the original for close-ups, but they built I think it was about a 3/4 scale. It was close to life size, one out in the middle of a field on the south side of town towards Fairfield. And
sorry about
that is where we filmed all the battle footage, because obviously we couldn't do that, on the Emmitsburg Road. It would have been, just too much modern stuff in the way. So after that, I'd gotten out of reenacting, decided I missed it, but I wasn't one into all the guns and that sort of stuff. And believe me, I was not really good at following orders. I would have sucked as a soldier. I'm more of a free thinker, to go my own way kind of guy. And one day I was traveling the back roads near Rochester, New York, where I lived at the time, and I saw a wagon for sale, and it looked like Matthew Brady's darkroom wagon. And that's where I got the idea. How cool would it be to go to reenactments, have this wagon, even though I had gotten rid of the horse, just have the wagon sitting there and use it as a darkroom. And that's where I got the idea to start doing the wet plate photography.
And that's awesome, man.
Believe me, Dustin, it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I was an EMT. I took acting classes. I was a machinist at General Motors, hazmat technician. I keep putting on all these different hats throughout my life, different roles and all that. But the wet plate stuff, it's tough. It's very tough, and it throws you a curveball, and it's so hard to master.
But you are the master.
Very much. Well, I'm one of the better ones. Let's just put it at that.
Dude, I've seen other people's work.
Look,
I've seen other people's work, man, and and listen, I'm not just being biased because you're a good friend of mine. It's the truth. You really truly are amazing at what you're doing here. So here's a picture with you and Robert Duvall, and Robert Duvall played General Lee in the movie Gods and Generals. That was a great story. So that was at Hagerstown. That was taken. They had a press release kind of thing, and all the PR people were there, the press people were there, local television, newspapers, all that. And I had taken this picture of Duvall about a week or two prior. And the publicist, a man named Vic Heisey, who's helped me a lot. God bless him, he's now deceased, but he was involved in tons of Hollywood movies back in the 50s and 60s. And he said, Rob, we want you to give this picture to Duvall. It'll be really great, PR thing. So make a big, blow up of it and present it to him on stage when we tell you. I said, all right, that sounds great. So, I got the nod, and he was up on stage, and off I went. I handed this to him, and I said, Mr. Duvall, here's this, I'd like to present you with this photograph. This is the, one we had done a couple weeks prior. And I'll never forget, he looked me right in the eye, and he said, I don't hang up pictures of myself. And I said, okay. He goes, but I'm going to hang up this one. Nice.
And I thought, wow,
What an honor.
A couple weeks later, Dustin, I'm in the studio doing a photograph of a tourist, and the phone rings, and I said to one of my buddies, hey, answer the phone, see who that is. He goes, it's Bobby Duvall. I go, no, it's not. It's some reenactor pretending to be him. He said, no, I think it is. I think it's Robert Duvall. I go, who the hell is this? He goes, hey, it's Bobby Duvall. He said, I wasn't kidding when I said I don't hang up pictures of myself, Rob. He says, but I want to invite you down to the house, he said, and bring your camera and stuff. And Luciana and I want you to do some pictures for some Christmas cards. We had some ideas. So off I went to Robert Duvall's house. Just it was right around Dulles Airport. And what a wonderful day. I mean, a humble man, such talent. He didn't really want to talk about himself. I asked him about, all his different roles. And, this guy was in The Godfather. And, Lonesome Dove was his favorite role. He loved playing Augustus McRae in Lonesome Dove. And he was getting ready for a movie that he was involved in called Assassination Tango. And they had turned their one of the horse stables into a dance studio. So that was pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, that was a great story. Great to be involved in that sort of stuff.
Now check this out, man. Rob actually got a photograph of some of the first people to actually capture a live Sasquatch.
I had to add this to it, not because it's so artistically perfect or anything. I get the weirdest requests and emails sometimes, and this was an email I got a couple of years ago, and somebody said, we found this photograph, and we know it's a period photograph, and we believe the 1800s picture of a captured Bigfoot. I go, God, I'd love to see it. They said, well, we want you to authenticate it. And send me the photograph, on the email. And I go, I can guarantee it was done with the original process. They go, how can you guarantee that? I said, because I took it 5 years ago. It was
my God.
Tim Kowalczak and his son, and on a blazing 100-degree heat day in Gettysburg, they brought this damn Bigfoot head stuffed. It was like a rubber mask. And I put him in some outfits, and we went out to Spiros Marino's farm, and I took that photograph. And it somehow it made the circuit that got passed around, of all these serious Bigfoot hunters as this being an authentic photograph. So I thought it'd be fun to put that one and share with the audience here.
It's a good shot, man. I mean, that's a pretty good shot. I personally don't buy into the Bigfoot thing. All right. I just don't. I think it's a fun topic to discuss. And I even want to do a show on this sometime.
Yeah.
But the whole thing behind Bigfoot that really strikes me is that, if there really was Bigfoot, like the Sasquatch, I would think that there would be like legitimate photographs, or there would be a dead carcass that was found somewhere, something. And
I don't know. Maybe
that stuff is
young or something. I have no idea. But.
I don't know. But check this out, guys. Everybody recognizes this photo. This is John Wilkes Booth, the assassin of Abraham Lincoln. I love this one personally because Rob did an impression of John Wilkes Booth. Now, what did you do that for?
Okay, that was for a show called April 1865. And I think the next photograph, there it is. That's me recreating that photograph. So a couple shots before, you had showed a picture of me on the cover of a magazine. That was American Profile magazine. That came out when we were filming Gods and Generals. And somebody had seen that magazine. They wanted me to do photography for this show. And they called me up and they said, well, instead of doing photos, would you mind acting? I go, God, I've never done that. They said, well, we really need somebody to play John Wilkes Booth, and you look just like him. That was the first I had heard that. But, I said, hey, I'll give it a shot. What the hell? Something new. I'll give it a try. And what was I got into it for a while, you know what I mean? I had a great frock coat made for me and the whole outfit and everything else. And he even found a little cane like he's got there with that little horse stuff on the end. And suddenly I started getting these requests to come to like these Civil War roundtables as John Wilkes Booth. And it got pretty creepy where a lot of these Southern women were writing me like love notes and all that stuff. I said, all right, this is getting weird, going a little too far. So I retired Mr. Booth. It was time to retire. So Yeah.
I mean, it's a great impression. I mean, that is probably one of the best restage photographs I think I've ever seen.
Oh, thanks.
And you have to understand something. You know me, Rob. You know that I pay very, 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 very close attention to detail when it comes to photographs. And I've looked at this photograph and have compared them to, and I think you did just a fan-frickin-tastic job, man. So kudos.
Booth was, I think, around 26 years old. I was probably about 44 when that was taken. So yeah, I was happy that I could pull that off.
Now, don't say who this is.
Okay,
I'm going to push this out to the audience.
Okay.
Do you guys recognize who that is underneath that Civil War garb? I'll give you guys a minute or two to get that answer. Whoever answers it, maybe I'll create a prize for you.
Cool.
And we'll see I'll come up with something for you. If you guess who that guy is, there might be something in it for you. He was so convincing being John Wilkes Booth. I even sent Rob love letters. Oh, you got yourself a stalker fan. So without saying this person's name, tell me how this happened.
Another History Channel kind of thing. He called me up. Hey, this guy's hosting a show, and we'd like you to be on it to talk about what you do and the effects of the impact that photographs had in the 1860s, especially those on the battlefield. The death studies, that kind of thing. So off to New Jersey I went, met this man, and a very nice guy, and had a great conversation with him on camera. You can Google it and find it once Dustin tells you what his name is. He's not really recognized as a historian. That's probably what throws a lot of people off. So he's really working, a totally different field doing this show that he did. But It was a good show. It was on for, I think, 1 or 2 seasons. It was all, but he did a good job.
Yeah. I think I'm excited to see what people say here. Give me a sec. I'm typing. There we go. Let's see about that. All right, guys. I typed it, but I'll say it. If you guys make it full screen, if you make my video, this show full screen, you'll be able to see a much clearer version of the photograph. But the
glasses throw you off a little bit too.
Yeah, it could.
Still seeing the facial features. Yeah.
So, all right. Anybody have a guess? We're going to move on from this photograph.
I'll give a hint. He's not from the United States.
Oh, okay. So he's outside of the United States. Also, he's a musician.
Yes.
All right. So we'll put that out there. He's a musician. I wonder who he could be, though.
I don't know who he is.
No, but when we find out who he is, it's going to be interesting. So, all right. Go ahead, Rob. No one's guessing. I don't think they're going to get it.
That's Roger Daltrey, lead singer for The Who.
There you go.
So I've been lucky. I've been able to do some bits with a number of different musicians. Probably the most famous being Bob Dylan. I was somewhat featured in the video that he did, Cross the Green Mountain, which was a song for the Gods and Generals film. And also a young lady with a beautiful voice, Marie Fall, who did a song for Gods and Generals. She did the opening song. But you'll see my work in that video. So I'm not there personally, but you'll see 2 of my photographs appear in that video.
So Mansell says John Lennon. That's a good that's a good one.
I haven't been able to play that one. I would love to have done that though.
Gretchen says Elton John. No, although I could see why you would say that, Gretchen.
The glasses, I guess.
I could see why you would say that one. All right, guys, real quick, I'm going to take a brief commercial break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to go through some more of Rob's pictures, and we'll get into a little bit some of the stuff that Rob really likes to talk about, like JFK and things like that, guys. Stay tuned.
Gettysburg Ghost Exchange, the largest paranormal store in the Northeast, settled in Gettysburg, PA. your one-stop ghost shop featuring the paranormal equipment, metaphysical items in the hands of light Reiki. Equipment such as static pods, REM pods, spirit boxes, motion lasers, camcorders, night vision binoculars, lighting, voice recorders, and body cams. Other items such as sage, Palo Santo, gems, jewelry, salt lamps, candles, deadly grounds coffee, and oils. Paranormal investigations of Jenny Wade House, Haunted Orphanage, Historic 1912 Hoover House, David Stewart Farm. Gettysburg Ghost Exchange, 271 Baltimore Street, Gettysburg, PA 17325. Contact us at 717-521-7465. Visit Historical Gettysburg and stop in and say hello.
Oh, yeah. Life just got sweeter now that WLFE-DB has merchandise. Show your support by purchasing your t-shirts for WLFE, Paratalk Radio, Inside the Drag Closet, and more. But it doesn't stop there. T-shirts, coffee mugs, tanks, buttons, cloth bags, and more. Go to WLFE-DB.com. On the top bar, click on the merchandise tab and bam! There you go. You got merch. Support the shows. WLFE-DB.com. Rochester Winter Parafest is back. March 25th, 26th, and 27th of 2022. Come say hi to Naked and Afraid celebrities Melanie Elizabeth and Trent Nielsen, Haunted Case Files Jack Kenna, Monster Quest Steve Coles, and more. This event has it all: paranormal investigators, UFO researchers, Bigfoot researchers, and even photo opportunities for the kids with Buddy the Bigfoot. Oh, okay, adults too. Come on down and get a tattoo from Ink Master Tony DeVille. There are psychic gallery and individual readings, as well as radio personalities, authors, jewelry, makeup artists, and so much more. It's only $15 per person, and children under 10 are free. March 25th, 26th, and 27th of 2022. For more information, go to WLFE-DB.com. Yes, Winter Parafest is back. Valley Oak Event Center, Geneseo, New York, next to Denny's.
All right. Thanks for watching that, guys. Appreciate it. WLFE-DB network. Check this out, guys. Check out the merch. It's good stuff, high quality stuff, and it definitely helps to support the network. So we had a couple of more guesses. We had Monica says Ringo. You know, that I think we're outside of that now. All right. So no, not Keith Moon either. Is there really a paranormal shop in Gettysburg? Yes, there is. It is. Yes, there's a Gettysburg Ghost Exchange in Gettysburg. Go ahead and check them guys out. They are a sponsor of the WLFE-DB network. So check them out. Rob.
Yes.
Let's keep going with some of your photographs, man. I'm going to go over here to this next one.
All right.
Who is that beautiful young lady?
Oh, that's Anna Ebney. She's a good friend of mine on Facebook still. And I sent this one to you because it's, I think, one of the nicer ones that we did in the studio. We did some really bizarre stuff and, you know, all kinds of ghost photographs and people dressed up in wild outfits. But she came in a stunning outfit. And, I mean, lighting, composition, the model, the makeup, the wardrobe, everything just came together for that. And I used it for a number of ads for different years. So yeah, it was really enjoyed that photograph. And,
yeah, she's fantastic.
Yeah, she's great. This was one out on the battlefield. This was taken in Spangler Spring, actually. And I'm sorry, I forget the gentleman's name, as I do so many times. I never forget a photograph, but I forget names really a lot.
But this is cool because he's GAR, and you don't see a lot of guys reenacting that.
A lot of guys are doing that. Rich Farinelli and those guys do a great job. I've got a couple of group shots of their group out there, and it's nice to see gentlemen that get somewhat up in age, a little bit older, and they don't feel like carrying a musket around or becoming an officer, but they still want to be involved. They want to do something that's authentic. And GAR, for those who don't know, that's the Grand Army of the Republic. So they were the American Legion of the Civil War guys, the Union Civil War guys.
Yep.
And these guys do a spectacular job keeping that memory alive and keeping the public informed about what the GAR was, who my great-grandfather was in, out of Alcott, New York. And I think the name of their unit was the Kemp, K-E-M-P, Camp. There were different camps, they called the different organizations. And don't know if he made it to any of the big national events down in Gettysburg, any of those, but he was definitely a member of that. So, and I remember as a little kid playing with his GAR sword. So, unfortunately, that went off to a cousin of mine, and God only knows where it is today. This is a picture of my hometown. This is Lockport, New York.
I love that.
Yeah, the Erie Canal, so much history down there. They just rebuilt this, what they call it, the Flight of Five. That was the 5 locks that carried barges up the canal, uphill. And because of that, and there was another set on the other side going down, Lockport became a huge metropolitan area in the 1850s to the turn of the century. And very, very prosperous. A lot of people made money at the canal. My grandfather was actually a mule driver for a while, so he was one of those guys that had the tow rope hooked to the barge. You got to remember, these aren't power boats and they sure aren't sailboats. So there's horses and mules pulling these barges along the tow path and through the locks. So he did that for many years, and I think that's one of the reasons why I had such a love of history is where I grew up.
Now,
this is Leslie Odom.
I'm excited to talk about this one, guys. Before Rob talks about the picture, I want to tell you, if anybody hasn't had the opportunity to go see the movie Harriet, you should be able to find it on Prime. It's an excellent movie. Rob was took part in that movie, did all the photographs for that movie, as well as you had a brief cameo.
Yeah, I think my left hand appeared on screen. So if you see that, and you go, yeah, that's Rob's hand. So
how do people how is it you continue to keep getting these really cool jobs, man? Like how do these people find you and contact you and keep inviting you and to do these really cool things that you're doing?
I most of it's word of mouth. I got called for one in Cincinnati in next month. They won't tell me what it is. They won't tell me who's in it. But I'm supposed to be there as a photographer, so we'll see. The one you saw previous was Leslie Odom. This is, of course, Harriet herself, and that's one of the fake slave cabins that's behind her, which was the authenticity on the set was amazing. It really was. So, it was a great project to be involved in. Probably one of the best pictures that I ever took. Should be coming up in the next one or two. If you flip forward, and it is not that one. What is that?
We lost it. It for some reason,
okay.
It crashed on me. Let me go ahead. You guys can watch me go through here and pull it up.
It's the one with the young lady in front of the corn stalks.
And you mean okay, right here?
Yeah, bring that one up.
Let's pull this one up right here.
That's it. That is just, to me. If I died, never took another photograph, I'd be proud to have that one.
I mean, that is a fantastic picture.
That was just, and it was spur of the moment. This is the young lady that played Harriet's sister. She appears pregnant in this. She's not pregnant in real life. And they were in between scenes. The main actors were offset, or they were getting ready for the next take of a different thing. And this just happened to be in the background. And I went over, tapped her on the shoulder. I said, would you mind standing over here? And they brought the little girl in, and the little girl was scared to death. And I think that's really what makes the photograph. If you look at her face, it's so damn authentic. I mean, it looks just like how somebody from the 1860s would have reacted, because they probably had never had their photograph taken before, you know?
It's
so
incredible.
They certainly didn't know what I was doing, with a black cloth over my head, behind the camera. This was one, this is not too far from where I live now here in Martinsburg. This is actually up in Boonesboro, Dahlgren Chapel. And yes, the family of the same Dahlgren that was in the Civil War. His father was a naval captain and all that. And I believe it was Admiral Dahlgren's wife that formed that church up there. It's a Catholic church, and it's up on South Mountain. And to me, that image, I've included it because I don't do that many landscapes. It was mostly always portraiture. But that looks like Ireland to me. I mean, just that little path, It
was beautiful. And you gifted me this photograph.
Yes, that's right.
And that photograph is hanging on my wall as we speak. It's one of my favorites. I absolutely love it. Matt has a question for you, Rob. How much involvement did you have with Fresnito's work finding battlefield sites from the original photographs?
We actually, well, first of all, this was all before, I had gotten into Civil War stuff. He had written his books, on Antietam and the Gettysburg one, Journey in Time. And he was working on the hardcover one, I believe, when I met him. I remember meeting him at the Farnsworth House. And to me, it was like meeting a movie star, I mean, this guy was, especially with what I did, he was the man. So years later, it was a couple years later, after I had opened my studio, there was a Civil War series from Greystone called The Unknown Civil War. And if you can find those probably online, I'm sure you can still find VHS back then, that were made back then. But there was one called Fresnito. There was one called Civil War Photographers in the North, and another called Civil War Photographers in the South. And we actually got Fraz out there in period clothing out in the Rose Field, the Rose Farm. And we went to all the various sites. We recreated photographs. I had a number of reenactors from the 2nd Maryland pose as Confederate dead. And there's footage of that. It was amazing. It was I think, one of the things I was most proud of is there's a guy that knew everything about Civil War photography in my eyes. And here I am out there with my darkroom wagon, making plates. Gary Edelman was there. Tim Smith was there. And Fraz says, wow, this is the first time I ever seen it actually done. And that blew me away, because I thought, wow, this guy knows everything. And here I am, I'm showing him stuff, So he said, I had no idea it was all this running around. And you'll see that on camera. And this is Zena, everybody. So she just decided to join me here. So she's a good little girl. But yeah, that was great. And I've had a great relationship with Bill for so many years. And I think there's a mutual respect. I mean, it's we both have pored over those photographs so many times. And we both have different opinions as to where different ones are taken, as do you and so many other people. And as I've gotten older and wiser, one thing I know for sure is that nobody has all the answers. There's always room for a new opinion.
Right. And what I find out here,
we're there.
Exactly. What I found out was, as you know, I've done a lot. Scott, Mr. Fink, my wife says, "Hey, Scott, it is good to see you here, buddy." Just so you guys know, Scott Fink is a photo genius. This guy does excellent work on the Gettysburg battlefield when it comes to photography. He's done articles for the Civil War Times or Journal. I'm not exactly sure which one. Scott corrects me. Scott and I are actually co-authoring a book together on Gettysburg photography. So it's exciting. He's been extremely patient with me. I've been so busy. I'm surprised he hasn't ripped me up one side down the other yet. Thank you, Scott. But Scott's also a veteran, and he was in service during the 9/11 attack. Was immediately mobilized after that to, go hand the bad guys an ass whooping. So, Scott, thank you for being here, buddy, and thank you for your service, man. We seriously appreciate you. But one of the things that Gettysburg has created, there's all these photographs in Frazanito's work, this mystique around, hey, where were the photographs actually taken? And in the process, Fraz did put in some of his books that this photograph, the location is unknown. Now, between Scott and I found four of those locations. And I feel like I've done definitive work on those, and I feel like I've answered those questions. Unfortunately, you get some of those folks who don't necessarily, buy into what you're saying because I don't have the name Gary Edelman, Tim Smith, or Frazanito. But see, the thing of it is, and what you just said is, they weren't there. Nobody was. Everybody who was there is long since passed away. So I don't think that bashing people about sites that they've come up with is the appropriate response, but that does happen, unfortunately. Scott and I, even though we're co-authoring a book together, we don't agree on the Harvest of Death and what that is. For what people don't know, the Harvest of Death was a series of five photographs that were taken of the same group of bodies, taken in two different directions. One showing a hillside, the other showing an open field view. There's some hillsides, mountainsides, or whatever you want to call them in the back distance. Very difficult to determine the location, but you can't say I have one without having the other. Right. And unfortunately, this has been so controversial in Gettysburg. I mean, it's just mind-boggling how passionate people get about the Harvest of Death, and people want to be that guy who have found it. You have your own theory. Your theory is over at the Trousel Farm, looking across at the cross towards the Rose Woods. And I think it's a great theory. And
the one thing I think that I bring to the table, whereas all these other guys are historians, I'm not. I'm somewhat of a photo historian. I'm an artist. I look through that damn camera almost daily at times, with an 1800s lens. And just like the photographers back then, you're looking for the most spectacular shot. You're turning your camera all different directions, tilting it, whatever, to capture whatever that is, that story you're trying to tell. Right. And I think that between that and knowing the process so well, where I can look at little inconsistencies on the emulsion, go, well, that's mist from probably raindrops, why that one's got all these little dots on it. Or this one here, the plate was drying out, which means it was probably too far of a distance between where the camera position was and where the dark room was. And they were running the plate back and forth as quick as they could, but still it was drying out. Right. So that practical experience that I have, has, I think, lent a new insight to studying these photographs. I don't know certainly 3/4 of the troop movements and the name of the regiments and all that stuff, as did most of them didn't either. You know what I mean? They were like, all right, this was Union dead wherever, Yeah. And that was it.
And a lot of times they were misidentified.
Image, they weren't CNN. They weren't a news crew trying to document out there with accuracy. Let's leave it at that.
Well, they wrote titles on some of their photographs that weren't even correct. And that's what threw Fraz off in the first place. And when he found the split rock up in the Rose pasture, that's when they figured out that, hey, these are misnamed, misnumbered, whatever. Exactly. And that started this whole thing.
You know why, Dustin? They didn't care. Who was going to ever look at this up? Who was going to be staring at a computer 150 years later, micro-analyzing every image, every little button on every guy's jacket. And
that's big, man.
We couldn't dream of that. You know what I mean?
Right. When they were
nobody will never know. We'll just, that's Union dead. That's where General Reynolds fell. That's where, and they mislabeled and everything else.
They did that because it sells pictures too. People have to understand this was their income.
That's right.
This is how they were making money. Yeah, so they could take
sponsoring them. This wasn't a government exhibit or anything. Expedition. This was a bunch of entrepreneurs who were trying to outdo the other guy and capture the most sensational images they could, and they did.
Now, one of the photographs that I found independently. I found it on my own. Actually, they're side by side, two of the photographs, both of them taken right beside the Rose Barn. Scott found them himself without any help independently at the same exact time that I found them. So Scott and I were both out at the site the one day, and I said, hey, this is where this one photo was taken. He goes, but do you know where this other one was taken? I said, yeah, it was taken right there. So he goes, oh, so you do know. So him and I both found those independently of each other, and that kind of validated ourselves, essentially.
Is that the one with the 3 dead with the wooden headstones?
That's correct, yes.
And you know what those wooden headstones are?
They're floorboards from the barn.
They're skinning boards. A buddy of mine who was a reenactor, Jim Wareheim, he knew exactly what they were. When you take an animal and you want to skin it, there was this almost like a surfboard shaped kind of curve to them, and you would cut the carcass open, stretch them over there, and that's where you would skin this animal.
Oh, okay.
So
See,
I thought, it had to be close to a farm,
sure,
a barn.
And it was right beside
it somewhere.
And it was right beside it, so
yeah,
that works out.
Makes
but I kind of thought they were floorboards because if you look at them very closely, they're tongue and groove.
Yeah,
I
guess they probably were, and then they made it. They obviously didn't call Amazon to buy these things. They, utilize what they had and altered them a little bit. So
yeah. So moving past that. All right, getting past the Gettysburg, and I could talk about that shit with you all day. We only got a few minutes left. I really want to talk about your interest in JFK. Dude, I got to get you going on this, brother. I love this topic. I love talking to you about this. What got you interested in the JFK assassination?
You know what got me interested in it? I met him.
You met JFK?
Yeah, I met JFK.
I didn't know that. That's freaking cool.
I was 2 years old. I was on my dad's shoulders in Lockport, New York, as he was campaigning on the big bridge down there. And he came very close to us. And I think he might even shook my hand. I don't know. I don't remember. I barely remember something about that. Sure. But I always had a love of the man. And when that tragedy hit, the assassination, even though I didn't understand much of it back then, I was, 5, 6?
Mm-hmm.
Years later, it was my mother that got me interested in the JFK assassination. She saw a man named Mark Lane on late night TV, and she said, I never did believe all this. My mother was brilliant. She really was. She was really interested in a lot of different things. She was just a housewife, but she loved Egyptology and all that sort of stuff. But she used to religiously watch any shows I had of the JFK assassination, And then I remember back in the 80s seeing Geraldo when he played the Zapruder film for the first time. So that's how I got so interested in it. And I've been fascinated with it ever since. So, it's one of those. Actually, it's on my bucket list this year. I got to get down there. I've never been to Dealey Plaza. I need to go.
Let me know when you're going. I might schedule some vacation time around that and go with you.
Yeah, that would be spectacular. But I mean,
what a good time!
All the players, all the theories. I have my own ideas as to what could have happened. But
so give us a Cliff Notes abbreviated version really quick. Give us a Cliff Notes abbreviated version really fast of what you think happened. Wesley Harvey Oswald,
all right. If you take away, let's get away from the whole limousine going down the road, and the shooter or multiple shooters, the man behind the picket fence or in the sewer. Let's get away from all that. Let's just look at all the strange coincidences and all the hundreds of witnesses that suddenly died within a couple of years. I mean, everything from Lee Bowers, the guy that was manning the train yard behind, it saw suspicious activity and something going on behind the fence. The moment the motorcade went by, Dorothy Kilgallen, who was a talk show host and columnist that was investigating the whole thing, told her girlfriend, I'm going to blow the lid off this whole JFK thing. Suddenly she dies of an overdose. Yeah, and they're just one after another after another. JFK mistress, I can't remember what her name is, but she was killed on the Canal Towpath in D.C. and Georgetown. There was just so many.
Yes, and these people were suicided. Like being suicided apparently is a thing that happens.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If you have information on the government,
she had dirt on Kennedy's, Marilyn Monroe. So yeah, I'm sure she was too.
I agree.
How do you take the limousine and immediately have it washed? So you lose all the evidence on it. You send Governor Connolly's suit to the cleaners. It's got a bullet hole in it. Who the hell would have it cleaned? For what reason? Ridiculous. The nurses of Parkland Hospital and the doctors, one after another, after another, after another, all attended him in the emergency room that all said this part of his head was missing, gone. The nurses that were at the entrance to the emergency room who said we could look right through and see a hole through the windshield. Where's that testimony? People that are willing to swear on their mother's grave, that went to their graves, insisting that it was not what was portrayed in the autopsy pictures, and that one thing after another was covered up.
That's right. Wasn't one of the doctors that were present? Didn't he also die mysterious death? One of the doctors that was present. I could be wrong.
I mean, Dr. McClellan was one of the chief emergency room, and he said, and he's got no reason to lie. It's easier to go along with the story, Sure. He said this was all missing. They said this was an entrance wound.
Mm-hmm.
A number of those guys did,
And then they talk about the Zapruder film that was completely chopped and edited before it was given to the public.
Well, that was the smoking gun. They never thought that would ever happen. And they never thought it would ever be released, So, I mean, the most famous movie in the world, the most historically significant movie in the world, the Zapruder film, 16 millimeter, about the size, each frame is about the size of your small finger nail. That's the size of each clip. And people are blowing this up to, huge proportions, trying to analyze every little bit of it.
Right.
There's just a lot of unanswered questions. And if you start following down various rabbit holes, there's some that think, that's why RFK died. I'm sorry, not RFK. John Jr. was because he was, investigating all this, and he was going to blow the lid off of, who killed his dad.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's true or not. Like I said, same thing with the harvest of death and all these other things. I wasn't there. I'm open to any discussion that's intelligent. And I think we can't rule out any possibilities. But,
sure.
It's funny. I don't want to get into faith and all that sort of stuff, but one of the things I had always hoped for is when I die, I get to go back to these various scenes and just as a quiet observer, look over the shoulder of Alexander Gardner when he's shooting the Harvest of Death photograph.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody, at Dealey Plaza, while the assassination's going, that I want to know the truth, and it's so damn, I guess, sad in a way that, no matter what, we'll never know the truth of any of this stuff. Because even if the truth did come out, it would be denied. It's been chopped up and so much, and our government would never allow it.
Well, I was hoping Trump said, Trump said he was going to put something out. I was really hoping that was going to happen. But, we're going to wrap this up, guys, really quick. When you talk about dying, I always said if a genie was real, I'd have 3 wishes. Okay. And one of them would be to be present anywhere, anytime to witness any event. So If I want to see Chamberlain's charge down Little Round Top, I'd be there. I could witness it with my own eyes. That'd be one of them. The other 2, I'm going to keep a secret. But Rob Gibson, thank you so much, man, for joining us today, dude. It was an awesome time. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Hopefully you'll come back and stay with us again.
Oh, I'd love to. I got a million things to talk about. And I'll tell you, Dustin, I've been very blessed. I've lived a tremendous life. And, as a guy that was a machinist at General Motors, I remember calling my dad from the basement of the White House going, "Hey, Dad, you're not going to believe where I was." And I was watching a news conference, and then that night I did a demo for the White House press corps. And it was, here's Clinton, Gore, Netanyahu, Arafat, and Rob Gibson, I mean, how freaking cool is that?
That is awesome.
Just involved in so many different things. So, I mean, I've been blessed when it comes to that. And the other thing I'm blessed with is so many wonderful, great friends that are doing so many wonderful things. And I include you at the top of that list. So
thank you. Appreciate
that. Absolutely love what you're doing, Dustin. Keep it up. You're great at this stuff, and you just keep your head down and keep pushing, and you'll get that big break one day. I know you will.
I seriously appreciate that, man. Thank you, and it means a lot to me. I sincerely appreciate that. Hey, before I let everybody go, I'm going to say bye to Rob here. I'm going to leave you guys with some final thoughts here. Rob, thanks for joining us again, brother.
All right, thanks everybody out there. Look forward to seeing you on our adventures real soon.
We'll be seeing you again, friend. Thank you for being here.
All right, bye-bye now.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't done it already, please head over to YouTube, Off the Cuff with Dustin Heisey. Like and subscribe that channel. Keep ring that notification bell so you never miss a video when we do go live. Also, WLFEDB Radio Facebook page, or excuse me, Facebook, as well as YouTube. And go to BB3 TV on Facebook as well, and like and follow that page. Guys, really quick before I sign off here. Today is one of those days, and we all have to take account for what happened that day. I'm going to go ahead and pull this down here really quick. We have to take account of ourselves, of our own lives, and where we are, what we've done, where we've been, and where we're going, and where we hope to go. Okay? There's been so much animosity towards each other. We have allowed these guys, government, people, organizations, whoever you want to call them, whatever, tear us apart, okay? A nation divided against itself cannot stand. Abraham Lincoln said that. And we've been divided. We've been divided by race, color, religion. We've been divided recently by masks or no masks, vaccines, no vaccines. Guys, we've got to put this kind of stuff behind us. Take yourself back to 9/12/2001 and think about what America looked like then. Think about what it meant to be an American on 9/12 and how united we were as a country. That's the most important moment in American history. The founding of this country was the most important thing. The ending of the 13th Amendment, ending slavery, was one of the most important moments in history. 9/12/2001 is one of the most important dates in history because Americans held hands, united together as one. We have to get back to that, guys. If we're going to ever stop what's happening in the country, okay? If we're ever going to stop the fact that we're losing freedoms, we're losing things that were given to us by the founding fathers of this nation, we have to stop that bleeding. And the only people that can do that is us, okay? Amen. Freedom is the only way for all of us, but amen. Thank you for saying that. That is the absolute truth. Guys, so I'm asking you today, please, love your neighbor, okay? Love your neighbor. Reach out to somebody you haven't talked to in a long time and see how they're doing and genuinely take interest in it, okay? Spread some of that love that you have. All right, stop focusing so much on who's done what and who isn't doing this and this. It doesn't matter, okay? Live and let live. Live free or die. These are things that are important in the foundation of who we are as American citizens. Okay? Freedom is only one generation away from being lost. And guys, it's falling on our shoulders to fight for what we have here in this country. For us to remain free, it's on us to do what is necessary to maintain that. Call your senators, write your government, do whatever you got to do. I don't care. There's a list of things that you can do. We don't have to talk about picking up guns. That's a last resort. We don't need another civil war in this country. There's a diplomatic process. Obviously, it's failed us. This last election was good evidence of that. Okay. That aside, okay, we have to become brothers and sisters once again. Okay. That's the most important thing. That's what I want to leave you guys with tonight. Just put the hatred aside, guys. We live in a beautiful place. We are the last stand of freedom in the world, people. We're the last stand. And if we lose it, it's gone. It's gone for good. There's no getting it back. Not without bloodshed. I don't want that. See my shirt? This is a shirt that I wear because it reminds me of what those patriots did during the Revolutionary War to give us this country. And slowly and unfortunately, it's being stripped away from us. Guys, it's on us, okay? That's my message to you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. WLFE TV, DB Radio Network. Thank you for having us. Our first show out, I feel it was fantastic. It was great. I'm so happy to be here. If you haven't done it already, guys, please like and share this. Get it out there. It helps us immensely. Join us next week at the same time, Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and I will let you know who that's going to be on Wednesday, whatever date that is. But thank you so much for being here, guys, and I sincerely appreciate you. I would like to take one moment, if you will, and just bow your heads. Give a moment of silence for those who lost their lives today on 9/11/2001. My heart goes out to you all. God bless you, and thank you for being here, and we'll see you guys next week. Much love and respect, guys. Thanks for going off the cuff with Dustin Heisey.